Hello everyone. So this is Nitin Singh again with this new video, and today I'm going to cover all these five topics which I have taken from the Hindu, and they're very relevant and most important topics. Specifically, this uh, Indian criminal laws, right? Because they have replaced the existing laws, IPC, CRPC, and Indian Evidence Act. This will be our first topic. Then we are going to cover the second topic, NCDC survey. It is related to AMR, how the indiscriminate use of medicine it is contributing towards the rise in AMR. AMR is antimicrobial resistance. That means, right, the microbes, the viruses, the bacteria, because the indiscriminate use of medicines, they mutate, they develop resistance against the medicine, right? Further increasing the mortality rate. The third topic that we are going to discuss is National Essential Diagnostic List, right? This topic is very important because we have different units of health sector: primary, secondary, tertiary, right? And the tertiary sector of health in India is the most advanced one, right? Where you can expect all kind of treatment given to a patient. Inbound and outbound patient facilities are available in tertiary sector. But what about the primary sector, right? What about the wellness healthcare centers, right? As envisaged within the framework of Ayushman Bharat. So uh, these primary sectors, they must have some kind of, you can say, diagnostic equipments, diagnostic tools, diagnosis tools, right? So even if they have lab or they don't have lab, it doesn't matter. So this is related to that particular aspect. So fourth topic, we are going to read about the Thiruvalluvar. This is in context of right, because the governor of Tamil Nadu, so he was revering Thiruvalluvar with his image in saffron color, right? So we'll not discuss the political aspects of it. We'll discuss the personality of Thiruvalluvar, his contribution, and the things which is important for exam, right? We're not going to discuss the irrelevant things. The last topic that we are going to discuss is the PM Janman scheme. PM Janman scheme, it is related to particularly vulnerable tribal groups, right? And it is related to, obviously, any scheme related to these vulnerable sections of society. It is for their upliftment, right? So let's begin our lecture. So here we have three criminal laws, which has replaced the erstwhile colonial laws like IPC, CRPC, and Indian Evidence Act. So the first law, which has been formulated, is Bharatiya Nyaya Samhita. We can see here, this is Bharatiya Nyaya Samhita, and Bharatiya Nyaya Samhita, it has replaced Indian Penal Code, right? So it is the framework of Indian Penal Code was the framework of the criminal law. So it has been replaced by Bharatiya Nyaya Samhita, right? The second important law is Bharatiya Nagrik Samhita, Suraksha Samhita. It has replaced the Code of Criminal Procedure, right? Code of Criminal Procedure, it entails what are the procedures which has to be followed by the police, by the authority when it comes to the arrest, when it comes to the investigations. So it deals with the procedure related to the criminal offenses, right? And third law is Bharatiya Sakshya Adhiniyam 2023. Bharatiya Sakshya Adhiniyam replaced Indian Evidence Act 1872. Right. The passage of the act was preceded by three bills to reform criminal laws. Right. And the bills were introduced first in August 2023, and it was sent to Parliamentary Standing Committee. And we know parliamentary standing committee, it has the role to provide inputs, right, while formulating the bill. As in case of India, when the bill is introduced, so there are some expert advices are needed. So for that purpose, these committees, standing committees, have been formulated. It has been put into place so that they can recommend some suggestions, some advice, some valuable inputs. And right, sometimes these panels could include the expert from the industry as well, private expert from the industry as well. So right, we understand. Now there have been many recommendation on the part of these standing committee. They have recommended a lot of things which has been completely ignored by the current government. So what they were recommended, what are the things they recommended? Like they recommended for the criminalization of gay sex, homosexual sex, right? For the recriminalization of section 377, right? And in what cases they want recriminalization of section 377? In case of non-consensual bisexual sex, non-consensual bisexual sex, they wanted, right? It has to be criminalized, but the current government didn't bother much about this, right? In the same way, uh, the way this has been adultery law, they wanted some reform with respect to the adultery law, because adultery law has been, we know, it has been completely decriminalized, and it has been made gender neutral in 2018 judgment of Supreme Court, right? So we'll see it later. So let us understand the other aspects of the bill. Okay, now here we are going to see everything in detail. Uh, I have included the things which had been happening in the past so that you could have better understanding of what were the recommendation of the Parliamentary Standing Committee, how the bill was initially placed in August, and how it has been reintroduced and passed with the changes. So we are going to look into these aspects. First of all, we'll just try to have a look. The Bharatiya Nyaya Samhita, the bill when it was introduced, right, it was supposed to replace Indian Penal Code. Now we read the IPC, which was framed by the British, is the official criminal code of India that lists various crimes and punishment, right? So various crimes and punishment is listed within the framework of IPC. Okay, now what are the changes which had been which had been proposed that time? So they deleted sedition, but other provisions have been introduced like secessionism, right? Secessionism means an attempt to separate. Secessionism is like separatism only, right? It is like a tendency to claim the separation of your state from the Indian Union. So separatism, rebellion, act against sovereignty, unity and integrity of India, provisions of death penalty for gang rape of minors, and right, new provisions have been introduced for the death. New death penalty have been introduced for gang rape of minor below the 16 year, and for mob lynching. And I think the age of minor has been raised from 16 to 18, right? So they will still be considered minor if you indulge into those activities. Community service introduced, as discussed. The community service is the noble idea which has been introduced for petty offences. Now the second aspect, second bill is the Bharatiya Nagrik Suraksha Samhita, right? As I told, this is related to the procedural aspects of crime, like arrest, investigation, charge sheet, etc., etc. So see, it has replaced CRPC, which was formulated in past in 1860s, but it was amended in 1973 by Indira Gandhi government. So CRPC lays down the procedure for investigation, arrest, court hearing, bail, punishment in criminal cases, right? It also entails the punishment in criminal cases. And the key takeaways of the the new bill of Bharatiya Nagrik Suraksha Samhita, it has recommended for time-bound investigation by the court, by the trial agencies, right? And video recording, it the video recording on the part of victim of sexual assault has been made mandatory. Now it is mandatory. New provision for attachment of property and proceeds of crime, right? So uh, properties can be captured by the government if found guilty. So now we are going to talk about the Bharatiya Sakshi Bill, which has replaced Indian Evidence Act, right? So the major aspects of Bharatiya Sakshi Bill is digitization of all the records, and now the evidences which could be deemed to be as evidence could be any evidence of electronic medium like messages, emails, server logs, right? Locational evidence, mails, etc. So these are three bills which were introduced to replace the erstwhile colonial criminal laws. Now, we need to understand what have been incorporated into the new Act of Bharatiya Nyaya Samhita, right? So the new act which has been introduced for the first time in Bharatiya Nyaya Samhita, for the first time, Terrorist Act was defined. Otherwise, earlier in IPC, there was nothing like Terrorist Act, right? And this time, they have not just defined what does it mean by the terrorism, but also they have expanded the meaning of terrorist activities. Like they have included, you can say, they have included the economic terrorism, any activity which can destabilize economics of India, destabilize Indian currency, it will also be deemed as a terrorist act, right? So we can read this here, giving an expensive definition of terrorist, right? And if a person is said to have committed a terrorist act, if they do anything with the intent of threaten, are likely to threaten the unity, integrity, sovereignty, security, or the economic security of India. See, we need to understand this economic security has newly added into the ambit of a terror act. The proposed section, the new other new changes which has been introduced are the proposed section 113. It says a police personnel not less than the rank of superintendent of police, he will be only authorized to admit a case into terrorist act. He is the main person who will decide case to be admitted in terrorist act, and it has to be dealt under the framework of UNPA, unlawful activities, right? Unlawful preventing terrorism activities act, right? Unlawful activities prevention act. So this is it. Let's move to next slide. Okay, so the bills which I discussed earlier, what were the new changes which put into the place in the bill, and later they have been passed in December 2023, right? So the addition, as I said, the Terrorist Act expanded the meaning of terrorism and included monetary stability and economic security, right? Clear definition of cruelty has been introduced, like there has been a particular section introduced in for the relationship between husband and wife and matters dealing with domestic violence, right? So the cruelty term has been introduced, and they have defined what does it mean being cruel against a woman, right? And the third last, that penalizes publication of court proceeding that may disclose identity of rape victims. This is very, very important. Means now the press is not allowed to publish the name of victim, publish anything, any matter which is sub judice, which is going into the court, which is going on into the court, and they cannot divulge the proceedings of the court, right? Later on, it is allowed for the publisher and reporter to publish the judgment of the court, but any identity related to the rape victim is not allowed. Now, what are the omissions? What are the omissions? Final recommendation on adultery, as I said earlier, and non-consensual gay sex not accepted. Yeah, this is it. A key provision that proposed 7 years in jail for mob lynching was deleted. Right? Key provision that proposed 7 years in jail for mob lynching was deleted. And what's next? uh, we need to see this, like when you might be seeing any good coaching institute and their notes, like for example, I was searching through the notes of Vision IS, and then I saw that they have included the 7 year punishment, but here you can see key provision that proposed 7 years in jail for mob lynching has been deleted. So we need to be careful when you are reading the Vision IS or any magazine into the market. You need to research yourself, because sometimes they may put in the false information. So because they have included into the ambit of bill, into the ambit of law, 7 year of punishment. That's why I'm saying this. So what's next? Debate on the bill will take place on the Thursday, and union minister. This all right? Okay. Now we can see what are the ignored. We have already seen what are the ignored recommendation. Means recriminalization of adultery law and non-consensual sex between two homosexuals or trans persons. Okay, so we need to understand, we are talking about the adultery law, and we are talking about the non-consensual bisexual sex. What does it mean, and what sections of IPC cover them? So it was under section 497 of IPC, right? Under 497 earlier, let me talk about adultery. What does it mean, and how the court has come up with its judgment on adultery, right? What is the viewpoint of court of India, Supreme Court of India? So adultery means involving in sexual relationship with someone else other than your actual partner, right? If you involve in sexual intercourse outside of your marriage, it is said to be the adultery. Earlier, under 497, under IPC section 497, the women were not punished. Women were not punished. Even if they indulge into such sexual relations, they were not punished. So this was seen to be a gender discriminatory law, because the women were not punished, but the men involving into the sexual activity, he was punished, right? And to make a complaint for adultery law, any member of the family of husband of that women, or the relative of husband, or husband himself, he could only report on adultery matters, on such adultery matters, right? But now what has happened, this government has made this, means Supreme Court of India in 2018, in its very famous Joseph Sine versus Union of India case, it has made adultery law gender neutral and decriminalized it. Because Supreme Court, as we can see, the court has coming up with very newly kind of concepts like right to privacy, bodily autonomy and integrity of a women, that women, they have control over their body, right? So they are firm about their viewpoints, so they have just eliminated this aspect and decriminalized section 497 of IPC. Even now the male counterpart, even the male who indulges in such kind of adultery behavior will not be punished, right? And okay, then section 377 means it was dealing with the bisexual relationship and the bisexual sex between two bisexual adults, right? Like like gays, lesbians, even the trans persons. So it decriminalized section 377 of IPC. It was a criminal case in Navtej Singh Johar case, 2018, right? Okay. So let us understand what are the key provision of Bharatiya Nyaya Samhita, right? So the key provision of Bharatiya Nyaya Samhita, which has replaced IPC. Community service, as I already told, it is related to the penalizing somebody who's involved in a petty offense, and he will be given community service as a punishment, right? This is a very noble idea. Then sexual offense against women, as I said, uh, the threshold for gang rape victim to be classified as major, it has been increased from 16 to 18, means below 18 is still considered to be a minor, right? It also criminalizes sexual intercourse with a woman by deceitful means, by making false promises. And right, you cannot just do that. That's immoral as well, not just illegal. That you are promising a woman for marriage in future, but and having sexual intercourse, and you're not doing that. That's also immoral. So going ahead with this sedition, sedition, it removes the offense of sedition. It instead penalizes the following, like exciting or attempting of excite secession. As I told you, the secession is like, demand for a separate state, armed rebellion, or any subversive activities which is, you know against the government mainly, or encouraging feelings of separatist. What constitute this? Encouraging feelings of separatist activities, endangering the sovereignty and unity and integrity of India, right? These offenses may involve exchange of word, signs, electronic communication, or use of financial means, right? Next. Okay, let us understand how they have defined terrorism. So it defines terrorism as an act that intends to threaten the unity, integrity, security, or economic security. Right? Earlier bill, it just had the economic, social, and political security of India. Right? It had the but now the uh, new meaning of terrorism also involves the economic meaning to it, right? And you cannot destabilize the currency of India. Those things have been included within the ambit of meaning of terrorism. So an offense of murder is still punishable either with life term or death sentence, right? Strike terror in the people or section of people in India or in any foreign country, right? It has also defined unorganized crime. What does it mean by organized crime, right? You can read this. It defines that any organized crime, any continuing unlawful activity, including kidnapping, extortion, contract killing, land grabbing, cybercrime, etc., carried by an individual or group, either as a member or on behalf of an organized crime syndicate. So, murder or grievous hurt by a group on certain grounds, right? Okay, this is dealing with mob lynching basically. So this says when a group of 5 or more persons acting in concert commits murder or causes grievous hurt on ground of race, caste, community, sex, place of birth, language, personal belief, or any other similar grounds, right? So each member of such group shall be punished with death. Now you understand what is going to cost to you in case if you are accused of mob lynching. So death or life imprisonment and a fine in case of murder, right? In prison for a term of 7 years, it has been deleted. As I said, that okay, the Vision IS, it has certain issues with respect to its information, so it has been, but you can recheck it and put it in a comment section. Now conclusion. The new law has been drafted by democratically elected government 160 years after IPC 1860, purportedly with a focus on delivering nyaya. Yeah, IPC was formed in 1860 in the backdrop of 1857 armed rebellion against the British authority. So focus on delivering nyaya. Now the focus is more on delivering nyaya, as the bill says, as the act says, and less on uh, delivering punishment, right? Okay. Now the when it says revised BNS, that means revised Bharatiya Nyaya Samhita. It says revised because earlier there was bill introduced in August 2023 and it was revised again by the government because the bill needed certain parliamentary recommendation as well. So incorporated some of the aspects recommended by the parliamentary committee and it has negated some of them. So the revised Bharatiya Samhita second omits the reference to 7 years, right? As I said, that Vision IS magazine has a wrong information put. An offense of murder is still punishable either with the life term or death sentence, right? Now they have added two new sections. Okay, section 73, which deals that printing any material, any information related to the victim of rape is punishable offense, right? With the maximum imprisonment of 2 years if publication lacks a prior approval of the court, right? And the second edition is section 86. So section 73 and section 86 have been added. So section 86 that proposes to define cruelty against women by her husband and his relatives, right? It has defined cruelty and it is punishable with a jail term of 7 years. Right? Community services explained. What does it mean by community service? While the previous version of the bill on the penal code for the first time in the country has proposed to introduce community service as one of the punishment for petty offences, including for criminal defamation, the new bill to replace the CRPC has now defined what community service would mean. Means the earlier it was the panel of Parliamentary Standing Committee which recommended to include community service, but it didn't define it. But now the new act has included the definition of community services. So what is the definition of community services? Let us see it. The new bill states that community service shall mean the work which the court may order a convict to perform as a form of punishment that benefits the community, right? Benefits the community, for which the convict shall not be entitled to any remuneration, means he will not get any remuneration for his work. It also clarifies that now magistrate, it also clarifies that magistrate of first and second class can now pass orders sentencing offenders to community service, right? Next, move to next slide. So next slide is dealing with Bharatiya Nagrik Suraksha Samhita. Bharatiya Nagrik Suraksha Samhita, Bharatiya Nagrik Suraksha Samhita, it replaces the criminal CRPC 1973, right? Let us understand the background. So CRPC was introduced in 1861 under British rule and later substituted by fresh codes successively enacted in 1872 and 1882, right? It had undergone several amendments, most importantly in 1898, 1893, and 1923 and 1955. Then we have major amendment comes in CRPC comes in 1973. The Law Commission of India in its 41st report recommended a significant revision of the code which led to the creation of CRPC 1973. Okay, medical examination. Any police officer can request medical examination of the accused. Yes, he can request a medical examination of the accused. In certain cases, like rape cases, he can ask for forensic investigation, right? And it has been made mandatory, right? Uh, it has been made mandatory for offences with at least 7 years of imprisonment. Means forensic investigation is mandatory now if your punishment is of 7 years, not less than 7 years. If a state does not have forensic facility, it shall utilize such facility in another state, right? Signatures and finger impressions. It empowers a magistrate to order any person, whether arrested or not, to provide specimen signatures, handwritings, finger impressions, and voice samples. They are of much importance, right? Timelines for procedure. As I said earlier, that pre-authority has to work within a limit of time, right? So it prescribes the timelines for various procedures. For instance, submission of medical reports to investigation officer, giving judgment, informing the victim of progress of investigation, and framing of charge. So, uh, key provision of Bharatiya Nagarik Suraksha Samhita. Detention of under trials, right? First time offender who have been completed one third of the maximum punishment period of imprisonment specified for such offense shall be released on bond, right? If the accused has spent half of maximum period of imprisonment specified for an offense, he shall be released by the court on the bail. This does not apply to the offenses, like this apply only in certain criteria of offenses, but not apply in offenses which is punishable by death or life imprisonment, and persons against whom proceedings are pending in more than one offense. So this is related to the uh, use of excessive uh, steroids and medicine against microbes, bacteria, viruses, and which leads to their mutation, and that further leads to their resistance against the medicines, right? And it contributes to the mortality rate further. So, because the time constraints are there, and it's already been 31 minutes, so I'm going to just leave these things for you to read, because they contain only the data, and data relates to like how in India there has been indiscriminate use of steroids, medicines, and the prescriptions, even those prescriptions of medicines which is not allowed by WHO standards, but they are in prescriptions, doctors prescribes it. So deals with that. Kindly read this article on the Hindu. It's a very informative, and this test was conducted by NCDC in different areas of UP, right? And it was related to the second article in Hindu which came. It was related to uh, a national essential diagnostic list for the first time, right? And what does it mean by national essential diagnostic list? It means uh, eh, what does it mean by national essential diagnostic list? It means we have different layers of uh, health sector, right? Primary, secondary, tertiary, and many remotest part of healthcare sector, like we have started with mohalla clinic, we have started with wellness center, we have started different sectors, right? And the tertiary sector is the most advanced one, where people of all the kind of inpatient, outpatient, right? They can uh, access the medical facilities, and all the medical advanced system is available there. The secondary one is the below that of the tertiary, and the primary is the most simple, basic health infrastructure available in India, right? So this says this ICMR starts revising. It starts revising current national essential diagnostic list. It means, as we can see that, okay, we need some kind of diagnosis tools, some minimum diagnosis tools, like sampling of your blood, right? And checking your temperature and everything. Even so, it recommends, even if there is no laboratory available, you need to you need to have these essential diagnostic tools. And now ICMR, Indian Council for Medical Research, is going to revise the list, which is must for every health facility, whether it doesn't matter at what level they belong to. They belong to primary healthcare sector, still they need to have certain diagnostic tools, right? So it talks about that. Okay, so next video is related to Tamil Nadu governor controversy, as he has shown Thiruvalluvar, the great poet and saint of South India, in saffron color, right? On Thiruvalluvar Day, right? So it's not important, this political controversy. What is important for the exam? Let's see that. Okay, so who was Thiruvalluvar? Let's know about him. Some people call him that he was a Zen. Even Hindus call him he was a Hindu, right? But he was a he was a saint who lived between third to fourth century, right? Uh, Third to fourth century BC, actually, and he was a Tamil poet and saint. And Dravidian groups also count him as a saint, and because he dismissed the caste system, right? And he has contributed to the Thirukural. Thirukural is very important text in Sangam literature, right? Thirukular consisted of 133 sections and 10 couplets, and each are divided in three books. Aram, one book name is Aram, which means virtue, right? Second book name is Porul, which means government and society. The book is related to government and society. And the third is Kamam, that means love. Aram, Porul, and Kamam. These are three major books of Thiruvalluvar. So Thirukural has been compared to the great books of world major religions, right? So this is about the Sangam literature. So quickly we will cover the Sangam literature, right? Uh, there has been some Sangam assemblies, and they happened under Pandyan's king, right? Between third century to between third century BC to third century CE, right? And these literatures they have compiled some certain books, certain literature work about love and war, right? According to Tamil legends, there were three sangams, right? Academy of Tamil Poets held in ancient South India popularity called Much Muchangam, right? So we need to understand this Sangam assembly means Sangam is what? It is kind of congregation where the great men, great sages, great poets they come together and discuss and write, pen down the important aspects related to the society, religion, war, and etc. Right? So this was Sangam. So it had certain meetings like first Sangam it held in Madurai and it was attended by the gods and legendary sages. Right? It is said. The second Sangam it was held in Kapadapuram, Kapadapuram, and Tukal Tulkapiyam is the major literary work from the second Sangam. The third is happened at the Madurai only, and it has immensely contributed to the literature work. Right, the earlier literature work were Tolkappiyam, which was written in second Sangam, the 10 poems, which is called Pattu Pattu. You need to remember this, and the 8 anthologies called Tu Togai, and 8 minor works called Pedi Nenki uh, Pedi Padi Nen Kil Kilkanaku. Padi Nen Kilkanaku. Right? It's very difficult to pronounce. Okay. So now we'll move to just see this PM Janman beneficiaries make sure. This was this article related to what is Janman. Janman is related to the tribal people uh, linked to associated with particularly vulnerable tribal groups. The most vulnerable tribal groups they are called particularly vulnerable tribal groups in India. So this is a scheme for them for the revival and upliftment of their life. We can frequently read this, right? And you can frequently read this. And what is this particularly vulnerable tribal groups, right? So in 1973, Theber Commission established primitive tribal groups, right? And they are later known as particularly vulnerable tribal groups, right? And they were called the primitive because of the pre-agrarian technology, economic backwardness, low literacy, right? And they are less developed than their other tribal counterparts, right? In 2006, the name was changed from PTZ to PVTG, right? And there are 75 PVTZ communities spread across 18 states and union territories in India. Odisha has the highest number of particularly vulnerable tribal groups, right? Followed by Andhra Pradesh and Bihar, right? So this is something related to, and now all four tribal groups in Andaman, right? It is to be noted that all four tribal groups in Andaman and one in the Nicobar Island are recognized as particularly vulnerable tribal groups.